Hello, and welcome to an introduction to oil painting. I'm going to be talking a little bit about oil painting and materials and equipment that we'll be needing. All very basic topics, but very important nonetheless. So let's get started. Oil painting is the ideal medium for the novice. It's an excellent way to study because changes and corrections are easily made. So unwanted passages of color can be scraped off the canvas any number of times without injury to the surface. You can paint one color over another. Drawing and proportions can be corrected, and all the nuances of light and shadow can be studied experimentally. A really wonderful thing is the painting can be put aside at any time and picked up and continued at a later date. As you progress, you'll soon discover there's more to oil painting than the surface quality of the brushwork, the type of surface you work on, the preliminary staining of the surface, and the underpainting all affect the finished result. However, in your initial efforts, you'll want to work in a direct manner. Now, as far as colors go, if you're just starting to paint, you'll do well to start with a reputable brand of student color. Most color manufacturers make a line of student colors along with their professional grades. These colors are less expensive, and the selection is nearly as wide as in the professional line. As you progress, you can replace the student brand with colors of professional quality, and the main difference is that the professional quality have far greater covering quality, particularly in the cadmiums and the blues. There are several good brands of colors available. Everyone has their own personal choice. And as far as the actual colors, these are the ones I recommend for basic use. Alizarin crimson, cadmium yellow light, cadmium red light, French ultramarine, ivory black, light red, phthalo green, yellow ochre, and zinc or titanium white. Those 9 colors allow you to mix various shades of other colors that you'll need for most purposes. You may want to supplement those 9 colors with some additionals, and some of those that I recommend, are cadmium yellow, deep, cadmium orange, cerulean blue, burnt sienna, viridian, cobalt blue, phthalo blue, and raw umber. For painting surfaces, the best and most receptive surface on which to work is stretched linen canvas. However, that's relatively expensive, so cotton canvas is a good substitute. The cotton canvas panels that fit in your paint box are the most convenient for painting outdoors, and they're inexpensive. They are light in weight too, and have the advantage of not taking up much space when stored in your studio. So the chief disadvantage of any type of panel is its lack of resiliency. Stretched canvas, whether cotton or linen, has a drum-like quality that seems to add vigor to your brush stroke. And there's different types of surfaces for canvas, from extra smooth to very rough. I find that medium rough texture is best for all-around work, and extra smooth is generally used for portraits. These various textures are not available in canvas panels. When a panel is made, its adherence to the board flattens out the texture. So you want to keep that in mind. Some people make their own panels, lumber and that sort of thing. And there are tutorials that we can do on how to do that. You'll need a box to store your colors, as well as to hold brushes, palette, and panels when you go sketching. The most popular sizes for paint boxes are 12 by 16 and 16 by 20 inches. Yes, the box lid should be grooved to hold the canvas panels of the same size. A box in either of these sizes will serve for both the studio and outdoors. Paint boxes are available in wood and metal. Metal ones are more expensive but will last a lifetime, and wooden ones already painted or stained cost more than unpainted one. If you want to buy an unfinished box, I suggest you give it a complete coat of good varnish, both inside and out, because it's easier to wipe off any unwanted paint on a varnished surface. And also the varnish helps to preserve the wood. For any wooden box, check the hardware, making certain that the hinges and clasps are substantial, and check the lid to be sure it'll hold the panels comfortably. Occasionally, inexpensive boxes will warp, which makes it difficult to slide the panels in the slots of the lid. You can buy a paint box completely outfitted with tubes of color. If the assortment happens to be made up of colors that you want, that's fine, but some dealers stock their boxes with colors that are seldom used. And if this should be the case, by all means, purchase the empty box and just select only the colors you want to use, rather than confusing yourself and your palette with unnecessary colors. So a wooden palette is necessary, and generally there's a wooden palette that is fitted for the paint box that comes with it. Give it a coating of linseed oil before using it, and remove the surplus paint from your palette at the end of each day's work. Then rub it well with a paint rag, using linseed oil occasionally, and in time your palette will acquire a beautiful protective sheen and will give you an excellent surface for mixing colors. It's kind of like the cast iron pan. Yes, seasoning it. It's kind of similar to that. There are two main types of easels: studio and outdoor or sketching easels. If you purchase a sketching easel, select one that folds into a small compact unit. Remember that you'll be carrying a paint box and probably a sketching stool along with the easel. A sketching easel can be used for working indoors, but it's not as stable as a regular studio easel, and it also limits the size of your canvas because they're not designed to hold the larger canvases. Its stability can be improved by placing rubber tips on the legs when it's used indoors. You'll need a palette knife for removing paint from your palette as you work. It can also be used to scrape unwanted paint from the surface of the canvas before repainting, and it can supplement a brush when you're mixing colors. A painting medium or a vehicle as we call it, is necessary to make the paint workable. And I recommend that you buy a prepared copal painting medium and use it at the start. Later on, you may want to prepare your own medium. A good homemade mixture is 1/3 turpentine, 1/3 linseed oil, and 1/3 copal oil varnish. You can vary the effect by using more turpentine in the preliminary stages of a painting to speed the drying, as well as it also thins the consistency of the paint. Then as the painting builds up, cut down on the turpentine and use more linseed oil, painting in a heavier manner. So yeah, when you're more experienced, you may want to experiment with other painting mediums. All mediums should be purchased at an art supply shop to ensure high quality. You'll also need retouch varnish. When a canvas is worked on over a period of time, some color areas go dull as they dry, and brushing or spraying some retouched varnish over that painting brightens the sunken colors. Don't overuse it. It will not be needed until the painting is well underway. So you will need oil cups, 2 cups that can be fastened to your palette. 1 cup is for the medium when you're mixing your colors, and the other holds turpentine for cleaning your brush quickly, especially handy when you're working outdoors. Make sure both cups are big enough to take a large brush. Charcoal pencils, fairly soft ones, or sticks. Keep those in your paint box. Charcoal allows more flexible handling than an ordinary lead pencil when you're making the basic sketch on the canvas. A fixative is used to keep the charcoal drawing from smudging, and it's sprayed on with a small atomizer. This can be left out when the sketching is done outdoors, and the surplus charcoal can be dusted off the canvas with a rag or a chamois. So dust lightly so that a faint image remains to guide you in the later painting. Paint rags, very important. Have enough paint rags in your paint box for wiping your brushes and palette, and just in general for cleaning up. The sketching stool. If you prefer to sit while working, you'll need a sketching stool. Choose one that is light in weight but sturdily constructed, and that will fold up and use as little space as possible when you're carrying the rest of your sketching material. Brushes. Bristle brushes are the most popular brushes for oil painting. The most commonly used types are the long-haired brush, known as a flat, and the short-haired brush, a bright. There's also a round bristle brush that comes to a blunt point, which you may find useful after you've become familiar with the possibilities of the long and short-haired varieties. These come in sizes from a scant 1/8 inch to over 1 inch in width and are identified by numbers. While I suggest inexpensive student colors for beginners, I do recommend that you buy the best brushes you can afford. Properly cared for, a good brush will hold its shape and resiliency and will last a long time. In brush handling, I give advice on the care of brushes and the use of other types of brushes. The following sizes should enable you to accomplish all the work necessary on canvases from 9 by 12 to 20 by 24 inches. Long-haired brushes are number 2, 4, 6, and 8. Short-haired brushes number 4 and 6. In addition to the bristle brushes, you may find a small pointed or round sable brush handy for fine lines and details. Now, number 7 flat is a long-haired bristle brush. It will serve for the bulk of your work. Number 2 bright also a bristle brush, but with a shorter hair. Using the edge of the brush, it produces a thin line, excellent for outlining. Number 3, round. The round brush is available in both bristle and sable hair. It does not hold much paint, but is useful for details. And number 4, filbert. It combines the characteristics of a flat and a round bristle brush. A very fluid stroke, particularly useful for head and figure painting, can be produced with it. And number 5, rigger. Made with sable hair, the rigger is used for delineating fine lines and sharp details. And the number 6, flat sable. The flat sable is the most effective brush for producing a smooth finish. It has a soft quality that lends itself well to glazing effects. It's very important to have good light if you have a home studio, not to have afternoon sun. You don't want to glare. It's good to have a white ceiling and neutral gray walls. Try to avoid disturbing shadows and strong reflected light. A daylight bulb can be substituted in a fluorescent lamp since it has a bluish cast. An ordinary incandescent bulb should also be added to it. So it just depends. Play around with it so you don't have harsh light. And for care of equipment, I have some guidelines, 10 guidelines that I'd like to discuss with you. Number 1, clean all brushes thoroughly at the end of the day's work. Number 2, make certain that you replace the cap of each color tube immediately after using it. Number 3, do not allow the oil in the palette cup to accumulate and become gummy. Number 4, remove unwanted paint from the working surface of the palette knife, then wipe the palette clean with a rag. Number 5, wipe the palette knife frequently, never allowing the paint to become tacky on the blade. Number 6, take care not to nick the blade of the palette knife. Number 7, before folding up an outdoor easel, always remove any paint that may have smeared on it. Check especially the cross piece that supports the canvas. Number 8, keep a small pair of pliers in your paint box for use in removing caps when they stick to the tube. If a cap does not unscrew, light a match and hold the flame at the cap. The heat softens, or it should soften, any dried paint, which is generally the cause of the sticking. Number 9, although most paint boxes are sold with a protective coating on the outside, many manufacturers leave the inside untouched. A few coats of shellac will help preserve the wood and will make paint smears easier to remove. And number 10, never store materials or equipment in a damp place. This applies particularly to paper and canvas. Okay, and that is what I'm going to talk about today. Next time we'll talk about colors, how to arrange the colors on the palette, as well as a basic study of color and color mixing exercises and hints. So I look forward to meeting with you again, and have a wonderful time with your painting.